Okay, thanks for joining us on the bright side. We've been talking about these gas hormones, gas transmitters. All this has to do with the fact that all disease is cell disease, and as we've said so many times before, there's nothing the medical model can do. There's nothing in the medical model's toolkit, if you will, tool chest, that can address an unhealthy cell. Now, all disease is cell disease, and there's nothing your doctor can do to improve the health of a cell. All disease is a sign of weakness of the cellular nature, the cell nature of the body. And there's no prescription drugs that can make you strong, people. There are no drugs, there are no surgeries, there's no radiation, there is no doctor strategy to make a cell strong. That's pretty much as simple as you can get. If we got a degenerative disease, we've got a weakness, we've got some kind of cellular breakdown, some kind of cell disease, and there's nothing that a doctor can do to make cells strong. But that doesn't matter because we can do it ourselves. One of the key elements when it comes to addressing cell disease, of course, is hormones. Nothing happens in a cell without some kind of hormone activating it. A hormone's like a switch. It's a messenger. It's an emissary from the brain. Hormones are command signals, ambassadors, emissaries from the country of the brain to the frontiers of the cells. The brain perceives some need. It sends a message out to the cells via the glands, and glands produce hormones, and the cells respond to those hormones. That's pretty much it. There's other members on the hormone team, of course. There's lots of members on the hormone team, but the ones we've been talking about now for the last couple of weeks, are gas hormones. Most hormones are chemicals, but gas hormones have interesting properties. Vapor hormones. These gas mists are released from the cells. They don't come from the glands like all the other hormones. They're released from cells themselves. Pretty much all cells will make these gas hormones. And then these gas hormones spread out to large areas of cells. They transverse vast areas of cells, relatively vast areas of cells, to initiate quick, rapid effects. This makes these gas transmitters ideal for quick action. And that's why they're associated with wounding and blood pressure and the inflammatory response, all of which are kind of like emergencies, all of which require some kind of rapid change in the body. When the body needs to run, these gas hormones will get emitted and blood pressure will change and more blood will get driven into the muscles. When the body needs to inflame or there's an invader like a bacteria or a splinter perhaps, these gas hormones will be released and the inflammatory process will kick in almost immediately, walling off the splinter or walling off the bacteria or the invader. So these gas hormones are emergency hormones. We talked about carbon monoxide, odorless carbon monoxide. We talked about stinky hydrogen sulfide. Both of these are emergency hormones, emergency gas hormones, both of which have dual roles. One is a toxic, deadly pollutant from sewage, and oil refining, and fossil fuels, and industrial fuel emissions, factory emissions. And two, as important chemicals. You got a dual nature to these hormones, at least the first two, carbon monoxide and hydrogen sulfide. You got toxicity, poison, and they also act as important hormones. They relax blood vessels. They slow down, inhibit excitable behaviors, inflammation and blood clotting, high blood pressure. They got relaxing effects that researchers are studying for emergency room treatments to slow the body down if there's a trauma, heart attack, some other severe emergency. The third gas chemical, probably the most famous of the gas hormones that control various cell activities in chemistry, is nitric oxide. These days, you get on the internet, if you do a Google search for nitric oxide, you're going to see lots and lots of products that support nitric oxide production. They call them nitric oxide boosters. Page after page after page of nitric oxide boosters that somehow, in some way, support nitric oxide levels. But it wasn't always that way. When I started studying nutrition in the early 1980s, 1983, 1984, when I was in pharmacy school, no one was really talking about nitric oxide. Not that many people even knew what nitric oxide was or what it really did. These days, it's all over the internet. Nitric oxide boosters and all the things that nitric oxide does, all the ways nitric oxide supports health, including muscle building and body building and improved endurance and anti-inflammation and pro-inflammation too. Pro-immunity, supporting the immune system, improving mental health. Probably there's no more important, or at least no better publicized benefit of nitric oxide than sexual performance, especially sexual performance for men. Nitric oxide boosters are sold as male sexual enhancers. And all works via this ability to open up blood vessels and increase blood supply. Nitric oxide is important for managing blood pressure, like the other gas hormones. Nitric oxide's got immune-boosting properties. It can help fight cancer. It's used for wound healing. It can even help grow hair, at least according to some of the websites that you'll see if you Google search nitric oxide. Most importantly, however, like all the other gas transmitters, like hydrogen sulfide, like carbon monoxide, nitric oxide plays an especially important role in inflammation, in the inflammatory process. Inflammation is the body's defense mechanism. Inflammation is a beaver's dam. That's the best way to think of inflammation. You hear all these things about inflammation and how inflammation is a cause of disease. There's a silly commercial for Crohn's disease that talks about how inflammation causes Crohn's disease. No, inflammation doesn't cause Crohn's disease. Inflammation is one of the things that happens when we have intestinal problems, for sure, because inflammation is the body's protective mechanism. It's the way the body protects itself. It's the way the body protects itself from invaders, and it's the way the body protects itself from dead, sick, weak cells. Yes, the inflammatory process protects the body from dysfunctional cells. This is so important because this is one of the ways chronic and long-term degenerative disease shows up. Cells get sick, cells break down, and the body protects itself by inflaming or creating a beaver's dam around those cells. That happens once in a while, no big deal, but if it happens over and over and over again over the course of weeks and months and years and decades, big problems ensue. Hang tight, we'll finish up when we come back from our break. I am Pharmacist Ben, you're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this segment. I want to finish up a couple of things about nitric oxide, the gas hormone, the gas transmitter, that it's involved in so many different functions in the body, mostly emergency functions. The circulatory system is dependent on nitric oxide, blood vessels opening and closing. This is how the blood pressure changes. Blood vessels open and close. Think garden hose. And I've been getting a lot of calls lately and a lot of questions about hypertension and high blood pressure. Not surprisingly, 1 out of 5 Americans, 1 out of 4 or 5 Americans is dealing with what they call essential hypertension. That means a hypertension that is just part of your body. This is what the medical model will tell you if you have high blood pressure. They'll call it essential hypertension. Essential hypertension means it's just hypertension that's part of your nature. When something's essential, it's just part of who you are. The essential nutrients are nutrients that are part of who you are. Presumably, they're part of your body. Essential hypertension, if you've ever heard that term, that diagnosis, that means it's just part of who you are. Well, guess what? That's not part of who you are. There's no disease that's part of who you are. That should be insulting. Anytime a doctor tells you something is an essential disease, you have to have it, or you have to be on this medication the rest of your life, you have to be on this cholesterol-lowering drug the rest of your life, or you might have a heart attack, you might die, you have to be on this prednisone the rest of your life. Anytime they tell you that, they're insulting you. They're insulting the body. They're insulting the divine force, which is so important to understand because the divine force in our bodies are really where healing takes place. For the medical model to say, well, you're going to be sick the rest of your life, is like the medical model saying, we know better than God. We know better than the body. No human body. We couldn't have survived through 500,000 years of evolution if we all had hypertension, if hypertension was just part of our bodies, if cholesterol-lowering drugs were just the only way we could live a long life. We wouldn't have made it 500,000 years. Our ancestors couldn't have survived. So obviously, if you understand how evolution works, we are the progeny or the descendants of ancestors that healed their wounds, that didn't suffer from degenerative disease, that metabolized sugar when it was in the body. We are the descendants of ancestors whose bodies were refined over the course of millennia. So for a doctor to tell us that we're going to be on a medication the rest of our lives, or the only solution is to have our gallbladder removed, is bad science, bad chemistry, bad health, and a complete insult to the divine force in the human body. In any case, we've got nitric oxide, the third important of our gas transmitters, key player in hypertension, high blood pressure, key player in the circulatory system, in sexual health, and in the inflammatory process. And by the way, the cardiovascular system, the heart, and the circulatory system, and inflammation, and the nervous system too, by the way. Nitric oxide plays a role in keeping nerve cells healthy. Between the nerve cells, the cardiovascular system, and the inflammatory system, you're pretty much dealing with the whole body, which means nitric oxide affects the whole body, which means strategies for building nitric oxide can improve overall health across the board. And like hydrogen sulfide and carbon monoxide, what makes nitric oxide so important and so functional is the fact that it's a vapor. It's a gas. It can cover large amounts of territory, cell territory, in a single puff. Nitric oxide is super duper functional, and also it's very ephemeral. It disappears quickly. Nitric oxide is also a pollutant, as we said. It's a industrial waste. It's a byproduct of combustion engines and of industry. It's also produced in lightning storms. But inside the body, it's a whole different story. Inside the body, it's not toxic at all. It's not a toxic gas. It's a magical breeze, a magical wind that is especially important for the blood system, for the blood vessels. It relaxes them. It cools the body, has a cooling property on the body. And when you take into account it's very short acting and its ephemeral, temporary nature, because it's destroyed pretty much as soon as it's made, it makes sense to use strategies that will help your body build nitric oxide. The first component when it comes to building nitric oxide is the element nitrogen. We talked in the past about nitrogen as a highly energetic element that gives protein and amino acids their fundamental characteristics. Nitrogen is a key player when it comes to growing plants. Plants use nitrogen to make proteins. There's a big problem with topsoil that nobody's talking about, and one of the problems is we've lost the bacteria that transfer or transform gas nitrogen from the environment, into usable nitrogen. Our air is almost 80% nitrogen. Every time you take a breath, you're 3/4 of that breath, or over 3/4 of that breath, is nitrogen. But that nitrogen is tied up. It's locked up. And the body can't really use that nitrogen. So even though our atmosphere is made up of 3/4 nitrogen, it's kind of an inert form of nitrogen. It's a locked up form of nitrogen. But once that nitrogen hits the soil, there are bacteria in the soil that can transform that nitrogen into a usable form for plants. These bacteria are called nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Perhaps you've heard that term. Problem is, when you use pesticides and use toxic chemicals on the plants, it kills the nitrogen-fixing bacteria. And oh, by the way, those nitrogen-fixing bacteria are also important for the production of vitamin B12. So between vitamin B12 being killed off by pesticides and by fertilizers, and nitric oxide or nitrogen-fixing bacteria being killed off by these fertilizers, you've got a major problem when it comes to agriculture. This is one of the reasons why farmers have to use more and more fertilizers, because the nitrogen-fixing bacteria, the healthy bacteria, are gone because of the pesticides and because of the fertilizers. And this is one generous reason why we want to eat organic. I was talking to my CPA last week. We were having dinner, and she said to me, well, I don't know about this organic stuff. I don't really think it's a big deal, and I don't want to pay extra money for organic, blah, blah, blah. And I hear this all the time, and you see internet posts and Facebook posts about how organic isn't really important and how it's more expensive, but it doesn't really provide much extra nutrition. Well, aside from the fact that if you're eating organic, you're not eating pesticides, which is always a good thing. I don't know how anybody could think, if you have a choice between eating organic or eating pesticide-laden foods, I don't know how anybody could think it's better or it's in any way disadvantageous to eat organic, or it's better to eat non-organic, even if it is a little bit more expensive. But one point that's missing when you eat organic, or that people don't talk about, is the fact that the more organic we eat, the less fertilizers and pesticides we need, and the healthier our topsoil is going to be. It's our contribution to healthy topsoil to eat organic. Let's finish up when I come back from our break, and we'll also take your phone calls. 877-300-7645 is our number. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. We'll continue talking about nitric oxide tomorrow and the importance of nitrogen tomorrow. And I also want to try and talk a little bit about hypertension. I've been getting these letters about high blood pressure, and I think we'll do that tomorrow on our next episode. Well, maybe I'll just tell you right now, if you got high blood pressure, if you're dealing with hypertension, the most important consideration is the emergency response. High blood pressure is the way the body handles emergencies. It clamps down on the blood pressure in the extremities, or it clamps down on the blood vessels, the circulatory system in the extremities, and drives the pressure upwards towards the muscles and the interior of the body. This causes high blood pressure. It's the body's attempt to get away from a situation. That's all you need to know. If you want to know the mechanism of it all, it's very fascinating. But if you have high blood pressure, you just need to regard it as a sign of the emergency response. And to poison the circulatory system with a drug is not only foolhardy, and it doesn't take care of the problem, but you're now immersing your body in more emergency-inducing toxicity. That means drugs, you're taking prescription drugs for what is an emergency condition, and all you're doing is creating more emergency. On the other hand, by relaxing the body, by removing the emergency, which usually involves food, blood sugar, or some kind of toxicity that's entering into the system, usually through the digestive system, the blood pressure drops on its own. And you can prove this to yourself, as we said millions of times in my presentations and on this radio program. You can prove this to yourself, the link between the emergency response and hypertension and high blood pressure, by sitting on the couch, practicing deep breathing. Take a blood pressure cuff, take your blood pressure baseline, whatever it is, if you have high blood pressure that is, then spend 2 minutes deep breathing or 3 minutes deep breathing. Get yourself an app, My Calm Beat, off your iPhone or Android, or bio breathing. There's lots of these breathing applications. Practice 2 or 3 minutes of deep breathing. Do your blood pressure again, and watch what happens. It will drop like a stone. Why the heck would anybody take a poison drug? Why would a healthcare professional who's taken the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm poison a patient, give a patient a deadly toxin? And I'm not being hyperbolic here. I'm not exaggerating. If you swallowed your beta blockers, 3 or 4 beta blockers instead of 1, you'd get very sick. If you took 10, you'd probably die. Now, I know you're only taking 1, but do you really want to take 1/10 of a deadly dose? 1/10 of a poison? 1/10 of a poison that if you took 10 times as much, it would kill you? What is the point? The body is already compromised. The body is already in distress. And now we give it more drugs? Please. Now, it's understandable if we're patients and our doctor tells us these things, but for a doctor to do it, this is why I get so upset. This is why I get so angry. It's not fair. It's exploitative. Now, if your doctor's ignorant, that's fine. Okay, it's understandable. But if he's bought into this medical model of poisoning the body in order to make it healthy, that is unconscionable. If he's ignorant, he just doesn't read, he doesn't get on the internet, he doesn't participate in understanding how the body works, well, that's understandable. Not forgivable, but understandable. But if he's hip to the emergency response and he knows that the body's under distress, and that's why it has hypertension, that's why the blood pressure's high, and then he goes ahead and puts in, dispenses a poison, that's unconscionable and not fair and exploitative. And I'm not even going to talk about the drug companies who absolutely, positively know better. All right, anyway, 877-300-7645 is our number. I'm Pharmacist Ben, your health advocate, your nutrition advocate, your get off your prescription drug advocate. 877-300-7645 is our number. Tom in Baltimore, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the bright side.
Thanks, Dr. Ben.
Yes, sir. Pharmacist.
Yeah, Pharmacist Ben. Well, you've got a doctorate in pharmacology, right? Anyway, my wife is 80 years old.
Okay.
She's got multiple problems, diabetes, heart condition. She's been diagnosed with congestive heart failure.
Oh, my goodness. How old are you, Tom? Are you over 80?
I'm 75. No, I'm 75. All right?
You sound great. You sound awesome.
But she's been going through a very stressful period. She's had heart disease for the last 15 years. They did a bypass. They did several stents recently. And they put her on different medication. And she's been a lot of stress in her life because of a family situation, okay? It won't go away.
Okay. How can I help you? How can I help you?
She has shingles.
Oh, gosh. Where does she have the shingles?
In her back, in the middle of the back, and on the side from the stomach.
That's miserable. That's absolutely miserable. And she has the shingles. You know, here's the thing about shingles. For the most part, shingles only appears in a compromised body. So if you have shingles, you got a compromised body. I went to a Christmas party on Saturday, and I had it out. I didn't really have it out because the guy was nice, but I just kind of listened, and we had a little friendly debate. He was a doctor, of course. And he was telling me about how you have to have the shingles vaccine and how anybody can get shingles and blah, 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 blah. Listen, that shingles vaccine is one of the biggest scams going. Do you know the shingles vaccine? It's awful. I'm going to get into the shingles. I don't want to. I got a bunch of calls here to get to, but just let me tell you this. The shingles vaccine is not necessary and not effective. Even the company that makes the shingles vaccine admits it's not effective. They say it's 50% effective. We'll get into the mumbo-jumbo statistical nonsense about 50% effective, what the heck that means. In any case, shingles needs to be treated as a sign that the body is in distress. So once you have it, and she's 80 years old and her body is essentially falling apart, you can't really take care of the shingles right away without fixing the body, and that's going to take months probably, maybe even years to completely fix the body. So right away, you got to get her on immune boosters. Right away. Vitamin C is the primary antiviral, antibacterial immune booster in the body. Get her on high doses of vitamin C. In fact, you should probably have injectable vitamin C. if you can do injectable vitamin C. Once you have shingles, she's 80 years old, her body's falling apart, you don't have time to mess around. If I were you, I'd find a naturopath who could inject vitamin C right into her blood, high doses of it.
How high, Doc?
You can take 10 grams of it. I mean,
10 grams,
have a naturopath dose her, but she can do high doses. You might also want to have the naturopath throw in some IV glutathione for shingles. IV glutathione. Glutathione is the body's primary disease fighter, and stick it right in the blood. Meantime, while she's doing that, assuming she does that, have her on the Healthy Start Pack #1, sipping on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Make sure she's using the Biolumin Nightly Essence, 3 capsules in the morning, 3 capsules at night. Get her on the Fucoid Z, which is a powerful immune booster, 3 capsules in the morning, 3 capsules at night, and then throw in the Ultimate Selenium, 400 to 600 micrograms a day. If she has any digestive issues, you got to correct those. And if she's still eating sugar, Thomas in Baltimore,
she has diabetes and she's fine. She cheats, but she's not cheating now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. She's who's she cheating? She's not cheating me. I'm here. No? I'm here in Colorado. I'm fine. She's not cheating you. You're 75. You sound great. She's not cheating anybody but herself.
Right.
And shingles and a suppressed immune system go hand in hand, and sugar and a suppressed immune system go hand in hand as well. So there's a lot of good information there for you, Tom. I got to move on. God bless you, though. I hope everything works out. Shingles is absolutely miserable. And by the way, once the shingles goes away, there's residual pain. So even if the residual damage, I should say. So even if the shingles goes away, you still want her on this supplement program. Thanks for calling, brother. Good luck. Okay, Truth Raider, what's up, buddy?
Hey, it's a season to be jolly, Dr. Ben.
Are you jolly, Truth Raider?
Yes.
Carl, we got to take a break, man. I'm sorry to do that to you. Hang on. We'll get you first up when we come back. I apologize, Carl. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We'll continue with your phone calls when we come back from this break. Don't go away. What is up? Thank you for joining us on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Back to the phones we go. Carl, the Truth Raider. What is going on today?
Half a century old, Ben. Hey, are those prostate exams that they want us to take when we're 50 years old, are they beneficial or is it just bullshit?
Baloney? Don't say that word, Carl, the Truth Raider, on the radio. You mean baloney? Yes, I think testing and diagnostics are baloney. I think we basically should be taking care of ourselves. On the other hand, if you haven't been taking care of yourself and you're overweight and you got diabetes and you got high blood pressure, you may want to know what's going on in your prostate or in your colon or anywhere else where they want to stick a scope, if you know what I'm saying. So under ideal circumstances, no, we don't need diagnostics, but we don't live in ideal circumstances. So a prostate exam may be something that you want to think about, especially if you have other symptoms. That's the key, Carl. Look for other symptoms. The best way to test yourself for prostate problems or colon problems is to diagnose yourself. Look for symptoms. Look for symptomology. Carl, what you're talking about really is a very important distinction that we don't talk about a lot, and that is the distinction between chemistry and clinical. The body is a chemical system. It's not a clinical system. Doctors are clinical. What doctors do is they work at the end result. They work at the macroscopic level. The problem is the body is created at the microscopic level, and disease occurs at the microscopic level. The macroscopic level, to know what's happening at the macroscopic level, aside from maybe just getting some information, doesn't help us because the problem is occurring at the microscopic level, and the doctors don't work there. They work at the level of the symptom. And this is what it means to be clinical. To be clinical means to work at the level of the symptom. To be chemical means to work at the level of the cause. And you don't need a doctor to assess what's going on at the level of the cause. You just look for your symptoms. You just look for the things that are happening in the body and put it together. So, for example, if you have problems urinating or you're going to the bathroom in the middle of the night multiple times, chances are you got a prostate problem. You don't need a doctor to tell you that. If you feel lightheaded when you stand up, chances are you got an adrenal problem. You don't need a doctor to tell you that. If you're sluggish and your skin is messed up and you're tired all the time and you can't gain weight, can't lose weight, chances are your thyroid's messed up. You don't need a doctor to tell you. You don't need to have a TSH test done to tell you that either. These are just ways that we get monetized. Humanity has been monetized by the medical model. This is what it means to be an ATM machine for your doctors. Now, these are all under ideal circumstances, Carl, but if we've been messing up our body for 50 years, you might want to see what's happening in your prostate. So, under ideal circumstances, we don't need diagnostics. In the real world, you may want to know what's happening to your prostate, especially if you're having a lot of symptoms. In my humble opinion, though, look for your symptomology, dose yourself with nutrition until your symptomology improves, or do make some lifestyle choices until your symptomology improves. I'll give you a classic example, Truth Raider. If you're going to the bathroom a lot in the middle of the night, right, over 50, you're going to the bathroom 2 or 3 times, or you feel like you need to urinate and you can't, those are all signs that you may have an inflamed prostate. Get yourself on the ProstFX, throw in a little beta-cytosterol, maybe 300 milligrams a day, lay off of the fried food, get on 400 IU of vitamin E and 50 milligrams of zinc, picolinate a day, and then watch what happens to your prostate. And if you're like 90% of folks, you'll notice that your prostate symptoms improve, which tells you what? It tells you were probably not getting enough nutrition and eating the wrong kinds of foods. And it's as simple as that, really. What's the doctor going to do if you have a prostate problem? Now, if you have cancer, that's different. If you have cancer, you may need to have an organ removed. I said. Prostate cancer happens to be an interesting cancer in the sense that everybody's going to have, or I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of guys are going to have prostate cancer and be fine, not even know it. Now, if you have an aggressive form of prostate cancer, you may want to do something about it. But there are lots of autopsies that are done on men who die at the age of 85 or 90, and they had prostate cancer, didn't even know it, and they lived fine. So just because you have cancer cells going on doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have some kind of surgical procedure or radiation done. That's a decision you have to make. In any case, in my opinion, if you have health symptoms, going to the bathroom, problems going to the bathroom, diabetes, blood sugar issues, correct those issues first, and more than likely your prostate problems will improve as well. Does that help you, Carl, the Truth Raider?
Yes, just the only thing I have is a little bit of cramps occasionally. Every once in a while I have cramps down there.
Well, I don't know what you mean by cramps. What do you mean down there? Be specific.
In the prostate area. I feel like a cramp deep inside every once in a while.
That doesn't sound like a prostate issue to me, if you're having cramping. That sounds like, because the prostate and the intestines are kind of close to each other, and you may be experiencing intestinal cramps. See if you go on a 2-day fast, and see what happens to the cramps. If you still have cramps when there's no food in your intestine or your digestive system, that might be related to the prostate. Might be. But I'm thinking that might have something more to do with the intestines. All right, I got to move on, Carl. Thank you so much, buddy. Hey, happy holidays, Carl, the Truth Raider.
You too.
Bye. All right, let's go to Rodney in Illinois. What's up, Rodney? Welcome to the bright side.
Hi, Ben. I'd like your thoughts on ascorbic acid versus ascorbate, and whether a calcium ascorbate or a sodium ascorbate is one better than the other.
Whenever you hear in chemistry is very interesting because chemists speak a language that makes it easy for other chemists to know what they're talking about. So in chemistry, there's commonalities with suffixes and prefixes, beginnings of words and ends of words. When you hear the end of a word, ate, like ascorbate, that tells you that it's a type of residual from an acid, without getting into too much chemistry. So ascorbate is the residual ascorbic portion of ascorbic acid. It's basically the same thing. When you stick a little molecule of sodium or calcium or zinc next to it, you get zinc ascorbate or calcium ascorbate or sodium ascorbate. They're basically the same thing as ascorbic acid. Here's the thing. The cells use ascorbates, not ascorbic acid. So they've got to kind of convert that ascorbic acid into ascorbate. And if you take a straight ascorbate, you'll make it easier for your cells to utilize that vitamin C. It can still do it, though, with ascorbic acid.
Well, that's what I've been learning. I just wanted the confirmation from a chemist.
It's a little bit better, and then you'll get the minerals, too. You'll get the zinc and the calcium. There's a product called Ester C that features these ascorbates. But ascorbic acid, for most people, is because it's so darn effective, and it's really cheap. It's way cheaper than the mineral ascorbates, is the best way. It's the most cost-effective way to go. If you have unlimited funds, go with the ascorbates. You'll get the minerals, and it's a little bit easier for your body to convert that.
I also came across a dihydroascorbic acid.
Yeah, dihydroascorbic acid is one of the conversions from ascorbic acid. One of the ways the body converts ascorbic acid. But again, you're going to spend a lot of money. It's not necessary. Your body does that fine. Personally, ascorbic acid is so efficiently used by the body and so medicinally valuable for so many different things, and it's so readily available. You can get it anywhere. It seems like that's the way to go for me. If you want to go all out, go with the minerals.
Another quick chemistry question. MSM powder, is the source important? Like I'm researching it from pine needles, pine bark source versus...
No. Once it's MSM, it's MSM. Once something is created out of pine or anything else, it's MSM. Once the MSM is created, it's MSM. MSM is found in various foods. It's found in seafoods and fruits and vegetables and plants. So, you can get it from these sources and they can extract it, but you're going to pay a lot of money and it's not necessary. MSM is MSM is MSM. A rose is a rose is a rose. Once that MSM is in your body, it doesn't know whether it came from an apple, a pear, or anything else. It doesn't know where it came from.
All right, Ben, you're a great help, and I recommend your show as often as I'm able.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Rodney.
Bye.
God bless you. Happy holidays, too. All right, let's move on to Kathy in Pennsylvania. Been hanging on for a long time. What's up, Kathy?
Hi, Ben. I appreciate your knowledge. Boy, we've gained so much information from you over the past few years. It's wonderful. I'm calling in regard to a friend who was just diagnosed with hypoimmunoglobulinemia.
Oh, messed up immune system, period.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the diagnosis. The immune system is messed up. She's not making enough immune factors. That means the body's been under stress for a long period of time, probably. How old is your friend?
It's actually a friend, a cousin of a friend. I believe he's maybe 37.
And he must have been sick for a little bit. He must have had autoimmune problems or some kind of immune problems going on, or do you know?
That I do not know. I think over the last couple of years he has, but I don't know how long beyond that.
Okay. Well, here's what you need to do. Number one, anything that's stressing the immune system, that's causing the depletion of these immune factors, immune proteins, has to be addressed. That usually means food. So get the food system handled. The digestive system needs to be patched up first and foremost. Biolumin Nightly Essence, 3 capsules in the morning, 3 capsules at night. Fermented foods, patching up the gut with the Z radical or the fucoidan Z, 3 capsules in the morning, 3 capsules at night, using mucilaginous kinds of substances like cartilage soup, bone soup, of course, glucosamine capsules, or noni or aloe, all of which can kind of coat and soothe the digestive tract. That's job number one for any immune issues and digestive issues as well. Using more protein, the immune system and the globulins are made up of protein. Egg protein and whey protein is also advisable. Make sure you're using digestive enzymes with that protein to help the body process the protein, and it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of apple cider vinegar as well. And of course, essential fatty acids and vitamin C and the mighty 90 nutrients in general are also a good idea. Lots more, Kathy. If you want to call back tomorrow, we can finish up.
I was just going to ask you something else, so I'll just wait until tomorrow then.
We're just out of time. I apologize, Kathy.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you for your help.
God bless.
Okay, bye.
All right, if we left you on hold, I apologize for that. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You've been listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. If you want to join the Bright Side Ben team, please call 866-735-2470 for a one-time $10 fee. You can join the team and help spread the word about the power and importance of a good nutritional supplement program. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.